and welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Friday, October 29th, 2021. As always, we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever discovered or encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is called the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience into part of the infallible guidance system that each one of us has been gifted. You can also download the actual tool itself. It's a simple PDF file. Click the link, download it, print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one where people have been stepped through that worksheet process, and or they've called in with powerful testimonials about how the use of this tool in their lives has provided a tremendous benefit. Sometimes they ask to be stepped through the worksheet process, so there are files there that can serve as a tutorial for anybody who's interested in learning how to use the process for themselves. You can also go to your app store and type in the 3 words Heartland Aramaic Forgiveness and get access to a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often, and then give us a call at 563-999-3581 with their comments, questions, answers, testimonials. If you call that number and press 1, it puts a little question mark by your phone number, and I'll announce you by your area code. And we would be happy to have you do that. We're also doing the Course in Miracles workbook lessons this year. We are on the 302nd day of the year. Today's lesson simply reads, where darkness was, I look upon the light. Creator, our eyes are opening at last. Your holy world awaits us as our sight is finally restored and we can see the truth of your world. We thought we suffered, but we had forgotten the Son, capital S, Son, whom you created. Now we see that darkness is our own imagining and that light is there for us to look upon. The Christ mind's vision changes darkness into light, for fear must disappear when love has come. Let me forgive your holy world today. In other words, let me remove any false perceptions that I have laid over your holy world, that I may look upon your world's holiness and understand that it simply reflects my own. Love awaits us as we go to the Christ mind, and it walks beside us, showing us the way. The Christ mind fails in nothing. The Christ mind is the end that we seek and the means by which we get there. So, that's lesson 302 from the workbook in Course in Miracles. And the Course in Miracles experiment book by Pam Grout, lesson 302 is titled Today's Fortune. Anything you damn well please. She quotes William James as saying, to miss the joy is to miss all. Pam writes, Taz's friends, that's her daughter who is now deceased, Taz's friends used to play a game with fortune cookies. They would break open their designated cookie, read the fortune, and add the phrase, "in bed," at the end of it. For example, "You will inherit an unexpected sum of money in bed." Or, "This Friday will be an exciting time for you in bed." Well, you can imagine the giggles and excited red faces that this provoked in a gaggle of junior high girls. Tosha Silver, author of Outrageous Openness, suggests replacing "in bed" with a different phrase. To any complaint, such as, "I'll never have enough money," or "I just can't find the right guy," for example, she adds the phrase, "without source." As Lesson 302 tells me, without source, the source energy, the creative energy, all that is, God, light, love, the dude, whatever you want to call it, without that source, my complaints might have validity. But once I offer up my fears, my demons, my challenges to the source, light shines them away, and I realize they are but vain imaginings. With source energy, my complaints have no power. With source, I can do anything I damn well please. So that's the Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today and the Pam Grout Course in Miracles experiment commentary. And we have about 50 minutes, as usual, to talk. Entertain your comments or questions. Get updates from you about what's happening in your young life. Entertain topic suggestions. Our call-in number again is 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, I will see that you want to chat or make a comment or suggest a topic. And since nobody's raised a hand yet, I will proceed with commitment number 11 from the book 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. Commitment number 11, once again, is very much in line with the reality management worksheet process and all of the talk that we do, all of the teaching and experiencing and shifting in perception that we do in the Mindshifter support groups and on Mindshifter Radio. Commitment 11 is titled Sourcing Approval, Control, and Security. And the commitment above the line, the commitment that's conscious with this particular chapter, is I commit to being the source of my own approval, control, and security. So, of course, the commitment below the line is the opposite of that. I commit to living from the belief that my approval, control, and security come from the outside, from people, circumstances, and conditions. They discuss how human beings have three core wants. They believe that all of the wants that we generate boil down to approval, control, and security. The point of this chapter is that all wants, regardless of their size, are actually just the three core wants showing up in a multitude of manifestations. They talk about one of their coaching clients, Jeff, and how he's renowned as one of the best investment professionals in the world, and he's a household name for those who read financial publications such as CNBC and others. A recent coaching call began with them asking, "What's currently got your attention?" And Jeff responded with the following: "This moment, what has my attention is," and then he lists 6 things: And all of these issues are really wants, as most of the issues are. I'm angry at an IT initiative we have around the portfolio construction. Our legal department didn't get the filings. Teenager is doing poorly at boarding school. I don't think she's going to pass. I'm still not exercising, and I'm fat. One of our portfolio managers isn't really living our cultural values, and I think he might need to be fired. My wife asked her mother to join us on our trip to Paris next month, and I'm mad about that. So all of these issues really are just wants, and they reframe them this way. I want a better portfolio construction system to be automated by the IT department. Or I want this fund launched this year. Or I want my kid to succeed in school. Or I want to be fit. Or I want our leaders to live our values. Or I want to be on vacation with my wife alone. All of our complaints, desires, dreams, issues, plans, goals, etc., are simply wants. Leaders and all people want a lot. Commitment 11 begins by identifying that all of these seemingly disparate desires or wants come from wanting approval, control, and security. Now, the core wants are approval, control, and security is the most basic. At its root, wanting security is wanting to survive. Another word for security is safety. So we want to survive physically and not die. But from this deepest desire for physical survival comes a desire for security. We want financial security, occupational security, material and relationship security. The second core want is approval. Approval is the desire to be loved, liked, wanted, valued, appreciated, respected, belong, etc. The desire for approval comes from the desire to survive. Quite simply, at its most evolutionary core, if others approve of me, they won't kill me. Since survival is my deepest desire, then my strategy for survival is going to be to gain approval. And the third core want is control. If I can't gain security through approval, then I'll get it through control. If I can't earn your approval, then I'll try to control you and life itself. Wanting control is trying to make sure that everything in life goes the way I want. I try to control myself, the people around me, my circumstances, God, and everything else. I invest a significant amount of energy in my plan to control things. Our belief is that these three core wants are underneath every other want. So the question becomes, what is the core want driving any surface desire? And another fundamental question is this security, control, safety, approval, is it outside of me? Most leaders and most people believe and are deeply committed to the belief that what they want, whether it's approval, control, or security, really is outside of them. The out-there-ness is the belief that my approval, control, and security are dependent on someone or something other than myself. Put simply, I don't have it within me, and something or someone needs to give it to me. When I place this outside of me, I create searching outside of me for something I desperately want or I think I need. Unconscious leaders are in the trance of out-there-ness and if-only-ness. If only they would approve of me. If only I had more money. If only I had the right relationship. And one thing we highly recommend for the leaders we coach who desire to wake up from this common trance is to identify how the out-there nature that they create and the if-only phrases that they think and speak, how are those showing up in their life? This can be done by simply completing this sentence over and over again. If only blank would blank, then I would have approval, control, or security. You can start by simply making a list of things in your life you wish were different. Once you have the list, look underneath the issue to find the if only, or the otherness. If only I would lose weight, I would have approval and security. If only I would quit making stupid mistakes, I would have control and approval. If only my clients would take time to listen to my presentation, I would have approval and security. If only my boss would give me a bonus, I would have security. Just a quick comment they make here. Most people that they coach start asking about happiness because they think that what they really want is happiness, and that happiness is the core they want. But what they've learned in doing this work and coaching thousands of people is happiness for most people is the result of feeling that they have approval, control, and security. Our advice is to go below the desire for happiness and see which of the core wants is missing. According to Commitment 11, one thing that distinguishes conscious from unconscious leaders is where they are looking to meet their deepest needs, out there or in here. Most of the time when they explain this concept to leaders, leaders say, so you're saying there's something wrong with wanting approval, control, or security? And the answer is simple. There's nothing wrong with approval, control, and security. In fact, they're a part of life in every person and every leader. The issue is wanting it, because wanting it immediately creates the experience within me that I don't have it. And if I don't have it within me, I go looking for it outside of me. If I don't have security, I'll try to get it by increasing my net worth. If I don't believe I have approval, I'm always seeking approval from the people around me. When I believe I lack control, I'm always seeking to control other people and circumstances and myself. Again, this is just what we've observed people do because they believe they lack the core needs of approval, control, and security. The question they ask, all of us who want to be conscious, is what if I already have approval, control, and security? One of their mentors is Hale Dwoskin. Hale's a teacher of the Sedona release method. It's a very simple technique for dealing with wanting and suffering and seeking that comes from a belief in lack. One of their favorite quotes from Hale is, "You cannot go anywhere to get what you already have, and you cannot do anything to become what you already are." You can't go anywhere to get what you already have, and you can't do anything to become what you already are. Now, this is directly parallel, in my perception, to the reality management worksheet, where it starts out at the top and says, look, our premise in this work is that your very nature is this energy of love and creation. You are whole and complete as you are. There's nothing of value that can be added unto you or taken from you. Your very nature, your human life, your very being is the energy of creation, the energy of love. And the goal of the worksheet is to remove any thought that you're less than that and dismantle any negative belief that you're less than that. And that's exactly what Hale Dwoskin is saying here when he says you cannot go anywhere to get what you already have, and you cannot do anything to become what you already are. So, if you already have security, control, and approval, how does that change your life? What if everything that is worth being controlled is already completely under your control? What if you are, and what you are is already totally secure and safe, and your survival's guaranteed? So, in a real simplified way, all leaders at any moment are operating from one of two beliefs or experiences. People who believe they lack something and want it and are seeking to get it from someone or something outside of themselves, and or they're believing they are already whole, perfect, and complete, and they lack nothing. These people move in the world in a very different energy. Those who believe they lack move through the world from fear. Those who believe they are already whole, perfect, and complete, lack nothing, they move in the world from love and creativity. Well, that's what our reality management worksheet aims to do. To begin by reminding me of my true nature, and then have me spell out what my mind is doing to create an emotion based on an interpretation of external life events, specify the thought I'm using to create that emotion that's less than love, watch how the machinations of my mind create a goal that needs to happen in order for me to be okay again, and cancel all of that, remove the false belief that there's someone or something outside of me that needs to give me control or approval or security, and restore me to this awareness of my true nature as love. So, those who believe that they lack anything, control, security, approval, they move through the world from fear. And those who believe they're already whole, perfect, and complete move through the world from love and creativity. So at any moment, especially when you're upset and stressed, ask yourself, what do I want? Don't try to edit your answer or be mature about it. Just blurt it out. It's just what we do in the first 3 steps of the reality management worksheet. Ask yourself, could I welcome this wanting? This is that Sedona release method questioning. Asking these questions. Could I welcome this wanting? Could I simply allow this wanting to be here just as it is? Another question from the Sedona release method. If I dig a little deeper, is this desire coming from wanting approval, control, or security? And the key here is to answer from your heart, not your head. You can't be wrong about your answer, and if you're not sure, just pick one. The next question, could I welcome this wanting? Could I just allow it to be here? The next question, could I let this wanting go just for now, just in this moment, as best I could? The next question, could I rest for this moment as someone that is beyond all wanting? Could I rest in this moment as someone that is beyond all wanting? This is almost exactly Richard Moss's work with his consciousness, his mandala of consciousness. Stepping into the center space of the now and letting the thoughts about the past and the future and the other and myself, letting those thoughts be for now and step into the moment, the present moment now. Could I rest in this moment as someone which is beyond all wanting? So in a nutshell, if everything in this moment in your life is actually whole, perfect, and complete, what if you're lacking nothing? Not just what if you believed you lacked nothing, which is the mind game, but what if your actual experience in this moment was was that nothing was missing. How would you be? And this commitment suggests that there is nothing missing, no lack, no conscious leaders experience that this moment by moment, there is nothing they lack. And they recommend a meditation about being whole and complete in the moment. And there's more available at sedona.com, Sedona. And it is almost exactly the same kind of process as we go through in our reality management worksheet. And we have time for a conversation. 563-999-3581. We have about 30 minutes left. How can we support you? What does this stir up for you? What kinds of questions or comments? What is it? What would it be like to experience yourself as being whole and complete in this moment, lacking nothing? Welcome, Susan.
Hi, Dr. Tim. This is the most amazing synchronicity, or it's just that what you're talking about is common to everyone. And if I get a mind shifter, which you gave me 2 days ago, it ends up being about what you've just been talking about. My mind shifter was, it is safe and healing for me to understand the depth and breadth of my resistance to working with Mira. And I started with my brain dump. It went for about half a page. And then a whole other something came in, which was, why am I doing this? Why have I been doing this? What is the point? I don't have to do these fearful thoughts, and I don't have to feel afraid that she's judging me if I'm boring her. I don't have to be afraid if I'm boring. I don't have to be afraid of anything. It was as if, and I questioned even my questions. I was thinking maybe this is an even more profound version of my resistance, that I'm now talking myself right out of doing this mind shifter. And so I just sat with it, both sides of it, thinking, well, am I fighting Tim Hayes' thing, this mind shifter? Or did I suddenly get something? And I'm telling you, Dr. Tim, it hasn't been put totally to the test, but there has been a kind of peace settling over me, and as if no one needs to care about that. If I have a thought that Mira might judge me, it's because I'm in an attack mode myself, which is the Course in Miracles, and I've thought about that a lot. It's as if what I did was found that all of my questions and concerns were floating on the surface of an ocean, and I just decided to go down below it all. Again, I don't know whether I'm just resisting or I'm saying this is no longer an issue. Now, when I get back with Mira on Tuesday, I might find that it's sitting right there. But even if it is, I can say, well, look at that, and still be underneath it or somewhere else so that it is not the issue anymore. So having you read this, these 15 points that you've been reading are amazing. And they are universal. They've got to be universal. They're probably all the result. I mean, those insecurities and doubts are all the result of the fact that we have, for however long, a lifetime, a separate body that we feel we have to maintain. But if it's true, as the Course in Miracles says, that the separateness is just an illusion, it's not true at all, then all of those little protections and precautions and fears and everything aren't necessary, and they don't mean anything. So I know I'm not exactly asking a question. I'm just saying how amazing it is that you are sticking right to the point of that mind shifter, which might be everybody's ultimate mind shifter too. I mean, reworded in various ways, but still. So that's just a comment, I guess.
Well, and I agree with part of what you're saying. It doesn't really matter if the stuckness comes back. If you're enjoying a sense of liberation right now, just enjoy it.
Yeah. It's like a universal permission to be whatever I am, and I don't really even know what that is. But it's all right, all of it, at least for the time being. It's interesting that Mira has been working with me. She asked me, is there a time in your life, was there ever an event or a dream or any experience you had where you experienced complete peace, self-acceptance, acceptance of the world, of others, of your whole life, whatever that form that took? Well, immediately I thought of a dream I had when I was pregnant with my son, and I've told you about this before. I went to bed feeling fat and ugly and out of control because I was pregnant and hungry all the time and eating what I thought was too much. We have a big family script of overweight people are sub-something. Overweight people are not at the top of the heap or whatever. A lot of judgments. We ran this ballet school. Everybody had to be long and skinny. And if you weren't long and skinny, you were a second-class citizen at the very
right.
end.
All right.
Yeah, unacceptable. So here I am going to bed, and I remember saying to you, I said a very sincere prayer. I just said, I need help. And we were at a retreat for Vedanta studies, and the chosen ideal, it's like a Christ figure. It was called Holy Mother. And I prayed to her. I felt an affinity for her anyway, and prayed to her and said, it wasn't even a prayer. It's like, I'm going to bed. I feel totally hopeless. Please help. I guess that's the prayer. Please help. And during the night, I had an extraordinary dream that left me in a state of complete bliss and freedom for 3 days. And then it dissipated, and I went back to my life remembering it and wondering why I couldn't keep it at that intensity, but I couldn't. But anyway, Mira was asking me about that, and this mind shifter you gave got me as close as I've been able to get to the way I felt waking up after that dream, of being let off the hook in so many ways, released from all kinds of personal pressures and wants and expectations and irritations and everything. The mind shifter just didn't last that long before it kind of disintegrated. So again, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying this very much right now, and the test will come in many ways later on. I'm just hoping I can sit on the Zoom thing, looking at Mira and feeling as if whatever I do or don't do, whether I grow or not, it's like your patter thing. I give up all expectation to change or have anything else change right there. Such a great thing. So anyway, I guess this is
notice how as soon as you do that and you start thinking about the future with Mira on the Zoom,
yeah,
you're not enjoying what arrived.
Right. I'm anticipating trouble again.
That's right. Just notice that. oh, look at that.
Yeah.
I'm out of the now and I'm off into the future and anticipating problems.
Yep.
Isn't that interesting?
Right.
And
That's
in that moment, I'm back in the present.
Right. That's going to be the escape hatch. Is the ability to step away and say, "Whoa, look at that." Just look at it. Just notice it. And so much, I've been noticing so much, but what's weird is I notice all the little negative voices, but I'm also noticing the wonderful things that have always been sitting there, probably. It's like if you do the work on one side of the coin, you're automatically going to get benefits on the other side of the coin. So
probably, right?
Right,
but it's all about at another level. It boils down very simply to: am I in the present moment, or am I projecting off into the future or about the past? And in that moment, when I ask that question and I observe, then I become aware of what I'm doing in this moment. So I'm bringing myself back into present moment awareness.
Yeah.
And as I do that, and I'm not in touch with my true nature as this loving being and the extension of the creative energy and form, I just become aware of that. And then when let's say I instantly move into the present moment awareness and I feel better, great. But if I keep obsessing about those thoughts, then I can apply a tool to dismantle those thoughts.
Right.
Or to question them at a deeper level. I can either use the Byron Katie questions or the Sedona release method questions that we just read. And that, again, that brings me back into what am I doing with my thought right now, exploring it, seeing it for what it is, and then it's easier to release it.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember that Byron Katie in one of her books said, I walk into a room and I know everyone there loves me. They just don't realize it maybe right now. That would be, she's acknowledging that there might be a little voice that's saying, am I loved by these people? Am I acceptable? Am I okay? But she has overridden it with the conviction that they do love her and she loves them. They just may not know it right now. That seems like a wonderful little mental exercise.
Listen to the word conviction. What she's talking about is not a conviction.
Okay.
Because that's a thought process. That's a belief. That's like what we're talking about in this lesson. Leaders believe that they don't have acceptance, approval, and security, and they have to find it from outside of themselves. What you're talking about and what Byron Katie talked about in that book is that it's not a thought. It's an experience. She's had that awakening, and she understands our true nature. She feels it. She experiences it. And then there may be times where her thoughts question it, and she doesn't need to go there anymore because she's learned she only suffers when she believes her negative thoughts.
Right.
So she doesn't have the conviction that these people love her. She had the experience. The felt sense, the no holds barred, living in that direct experience of her true nature and theirs. And so she doesn't get distracted when what they're doing with their energy would seem to send a different message because she knows it's not true.
Yeah.
She sees the truth of them and herself. She experiences it and feels it. That's dramatically different than having some thoughts or convictions about being loved or being loved by others. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. The way it was worded, well, I don't remember how it was worded in the book, except that she said what you just said. Maybe they don't realize it right now, but I know it. I know it, and she's comfortable and at home in her knowing.
Yes. Yeah. It's not a conviction. It's not a thought process. It's the felt sense knowing. It's having the direct experience of her nature and theirs. That's
good. She didn't use the word conviction, but I translated it to that, didn't I? So that's good. Yeah, one of the many amazing things about her is that she has never lost. It appears, maybe she has lost, I don't know, but it seems as if she spends most, if not all, of her time in that state of knowing. Yeah, that's a huge difference between having an experience and losing it and being able to sit with my eyes shut and remember it, but can't get there again.
Well, that is, what so many of our great spiritual teachers tell us is that our desire to get back to that enlightened state blocks us from getting there.
I can understand that.
So what, then the conscious logical mind says, well, then it's helpless and I'm lost. But here's the simple solution. Just notice that I'm desiring something other than what is, and in the moment where I notice it, I bring myself back into the present moment more.
Okay, but the present moment isn't quite that experience. It isn't as luscious as that.
No, but it can be when I'm not distracting myself from it. Great. There's another one of these commitments that talks about a commitment to being, and commitment, the next one in line is a commitment to experiencing that I have enough of everything. I have enough, and not thinking I have enough, have the experience. And this, again, goes right back to Richard Moss's work with the mandala. Step into that center, breathe, notice that your heart is pumping, your breath is moving. In this moment, as you're alive, even if you're thirsty, you still have enough. Even if you're hungry, you still have enough. To be in the experience of having enough. And because that's the truth in every moment. I don't have everything I want in every moment, but I have enough. I am in existence. I am awake. I am aware. And the more I step into that experience, the more this other thing that you might be chasing, that experience of, the grandness of all life or connected to oneness or whatever you want to call it, that is much more likely to arise again when you're not distracting yourself from what is in this moment.
That is so true. It's as if we make an idol out of coming back to that experience rather than just letting everything go so that we can really be present. Oh,
yes.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
And so the minute we go chasing after something we don't have, and we go chasing after something that we remember that we had in the past and we want to recreate it, we create the actual roadblock to achieving it.
I get
Think about
that.
the quote.
What?
Think about the quote from Hale Dwoskin. You cannot go anywhere to get what you already have. You cannot do anything to become what you already are. And what's the beginning of the worksheet process? Our true nature, our very being, is this energy of love. That's all you could ever want because that's all there is in the universe.
How then does, in the course of love, she talked about desire? How does that fit in unless the desire is to be totally present?
Well, because we're in the realm of words, and we have all of these meanings and loadings and emotional baggage for words. But if you look at Lesson 4 in the Way of Mastery, and remember that in the Way of Love, it's very much the same consciousness that's giving you the Course in Miracles, the Way of Mastery, and the Way of Love. So they may not be identical, but they're very, very similar. And so the entire lesson of Lesson 4 in the Way of Mastery is titled Following the Thread of Desire. And the whole chapter is this. It's really confusing for the Western mind because desire, that's bad. We shouldn't desire. That's selfishness. That's et cetera, et cetera. And so I came to say, this erupted out of me in one support group where people were rebelling against this chapter. And I said, listen, if you want to get the sense of what they're talking about in this chapter, every time they use the word desire, substitute the following phrase. Here's the phrase: the energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through me in this moment. That's what they're talking about as the energy of desire. Not my egoic wants, not my passions, my obsessions, not my cravings, not my judgments of not having enough. So you'll get much closer to what that chapter's about, as far as I'm concerned, if you read Lesson 4 from the Way of Mastery, and every time the word desire is there, substitute the phrase, the energy of creation that wants to express uniquely through me in this moment.
Good.
And that should help clear up what you just were talking about and the difficulty with the way of love and what they talk about in there.
That's good. Yeah. Good.
And it's so subtle that they give us exercises in that Lesson 4 in the Way of Mastery. Get up in the morning and, before you get going, just get a piece of paper and have it there by the side of your bed and a pen, and then just clear your mind and ask yourself, before you, get off busy with your day, just ask yourself, what do I want to do? What do I have a desire for right now? Go back to bed, have sex, go look at the kids while they're sleeping, go off to breakfast, rage at my neighbor who just made a noise that woke me up before my alarm, whatever it is. Just notice it and then make a note. And then take a breath, clear your mind, and ask again, okay, what do I desire in this moment? So it's an exercise to start tuning into this very subtle energy that moves through us. And what they talk about is how so many people have been conditioned that their wants or desires are bad, selfish, etc., and so they don't trust that energy. They've tuned it out. They've, confused it with what their egoic obsessions and cravings are, and At one point they talk about how people will go into prayer and say, dear Lord, Jesus, help me understand what's best to do. And then all of a sudden they'll get an urge to go get a vanilla ice cream. And they'll think, oh, that's bad. I distracted myself. Well, what if that's the energy of creation saying, hey, look, go get a vanilla ice cream. And on the way there, you're going to meet somebody. Or in the ice cream parlor. Or as you're leaving, you're going to meet somebody. And your life is going to unfold in a way that will help answer the prayer you just made. But no, we say no. Mm-hmm. No, I can't follow that urge. I can't follow that energy. And it's all because we've been conditioned to distrust it or label it as bad or wrong or selfish. And so the entire chapter in Lesson 4 is about undoing that negative conditioning for that energy and letting us slow down and tune into it sans judgment, right, without any comparison or judgment. And it coaches us to just do that exercise and write that stuff down and understand we don't need to act on any of those energies. We can write that list and do it 7 or 8 times and then get up the next morning and do it 7 or 8 times, clear my mind, take a breath, and what do I want now, and then write it down. And then over time, if I do that 7 or 8 or 9 days in a row, where each day I've let myself think, what do I want now, and then write it down, and then clear my mind, and what do I want now, and so done that 7 or 8 times. Now I've got about 50 different urges or desires, and at the end of 7 or 8 days, I look back and I start reading through what I wrote, and I start to see patterns and connections I never imagined. But they come outside the conscious, logical, figuring it out mind. They come through that flow of the energy of creation trying to express uniquely through me in this moment. They come through insight, intuition. And as you know, most of us have been conditioned not to trust our insight or intuition or even think about it.
Yep.
So hope that clears up something, because that whole thing about desire and craving is just so distorted and so judged in so many cultures, especially the Western cultures.
Right.
And people are living immersed in shoulds.
Mm-hmm. Right. That is very helpful. Thanks. I have another question, Dr. Tim. It's a quick one, I think. ADHD, the diagnosis. I was talking to Michael about it yesterday on the radio show, and he was saying a person with ADHD is acting in response to maybe not even aware, but trauma. They're afraid to stop for any length of time and focus on one thing because they don't feel safe. So they skitter from one thing to another, to another, to another, and they get the diagnosis that they can't concentrate on anything, but it's because they're afraid. I just wondered if you, in my grandson's case, this sounds so true, and yet who knows what else is going on. But I wondered if you have ever thought of that, or if you worked with somebody with ADHD that managed it well or got over it or anything like that.
Well, my initial response is the range of people that get the diagnosis of attention deficit disorder with hyperactivity is broad. It's a big range of people. And so while it might be entirely valid that this description of the dynamic that causes that Michael Rice gave you might be entirely valid for some people, it's certainly not the full range of people that get that diagnosis. Some of these people have dysregulated central nervous systems. Some people are creative, and they were never meant to sit in a chair in a school. They were meant to be out in nature, exploring and working with their hands. And, it's all kinds of people get that diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Some of them simply have, an underdeveloped cerebellum. And so they're trying to rely too much on their conscious logical mind to do repetitive tasks. And some people have actual, inflammation in the body and the brain that causes the symptoms that are labeled as psychological and psychiatric. So it's a far more complex thing than simply, that people can't slow down. That is probably a primary factor for some people. But the range of people that get that diagnosis is far more varied than that simplified answer.
Okay. That makes sense.
And as people explore solutions for those various people based on their specific situation, they find all kinds of different things that help, modifications that help. Mm-hmm. And then that helps demonstrate, okay, this was part of the problem. This was part of the issue that was driving this symptom pattern. And then they don't have to guess. Because when they make the appropriate changes and the person functions at a different level or the person thrives in a different environment, then all of a sudden we say, oh, guess what? That label was just a word. It has nothing to do with the actuality of the person. If you go over into Europe, you see these people that deal with kids all day, and they don't give them that diagnosis. But they've got a lot of the same behaviors, and they say, okay, well, what do we need to do differently for this child to give him or her a place to express their genius and their creativity and their movement, and then we haven't labeled them as defective. We're working with their unique genius. And they don't, diagnose them and drug them anywhere near as much as they do in the West. And likewise, if they adapt the same program as we have here in the West, as this gentleman I interviewed in Australia, he's in a panic. He's a retired politician, but he sees the problem that's happening when they're adopting the diagnosis and the label and the treatment with medications in Australia the way they did here in the U.S., and now it's an epidemic of prescribing these meds to kids, and it's not helping anybody. It's creating more and more problems. So I realize that we've reached the end of our time, so I appreciate the call here at the end. Thank you for that. I hope it was useful. I look forward to hearing how things go with you. Blessings. And I'll remind us all that we come from love. We're made of the stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim. I caught the last part of that. Good conversation and a good example of looking at what's driving the pattern instead of labeling it. Thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome and deserving. Have a lovely show.
Thank you.